This episode of Destructoid is brought to you by Squarespace. Coming up on Destructoid, Jim Sterling joins us for a Deus Ex Human Revolution review, Duke Nukem might be making a comeback, and Max has RoboCop quotes or something. All this and more coming up on Destructoid. Welcome to Destructoid, I'm Tara Long.
And I'm Max Scoville.
Why so quiet?
I don't know. I'm just excited about today's episode.
Oh, well, happy Monday.
Have fun things. It's always a day of the week with you. I don't get it. Anyway, let's get on to business.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, big story of the day is Deus Ex Human Revolution. It goes on sale tonight at midnight, I believe, and Max and I here have both played it.
We got a review copy. That was great.
Jim Sterling is going to join us on the second half of our show today for a full review roundtable. But first, start us off with a news bite.
A news bite. Okay, a couple of rather juicy rumors were birthed this week, coming from a tiny underground publication called Official Xbox Magazine. Now, first, it was mentioned that Peter Molyneux and the folks over at Lionhead Studios are working on a Fable IV for a 2013 release. This is going to be a true Fable sequel where you use a controller to play, unlike Fable: The Journey, where you just kind of wave your arms around in the air and cast spells. This news doesn't really come as a huge surprise, since when there are usually, 3 successful games in a row, a fourth one kind of makes sense business-wise. Now next, the Official Xbox Magazine's muckraking, no-holds-barred journalism was able to uncover a lead on the fate of Duke Nukem. An anonymous source, possibly in the Gearbox PR department, mentioned that after Aliens Colonial Marines, the studio is going to be turning its attention to a full reboot of the Duke Nukem franchise. The game, allegedly titled Duke Begins, has been in the works since before Gearbox got their hands on Duke Nukem Forever. Now, as tired as I am of talking about Duke Nukem, I'm still regrettably curious about what this is going to be. I really hope it's not going to be like a reboot in the Batman Begins or Casino Royale sense, because really the last thing we need is a dark look at the gritty past of Duke Nukem,
Yeah.
I've got emotional problems of steel. It's time to talk about my feelings and chew gum, and I'm really sad.
You've got some Stockholm Syndrome going on with Duke Nukem
I'm so
here.
mad at
He's
that.
that kind of thing that it's from your childhood, so you want to love it. You can't look away from it. It's like a train wreck.
Upsetting.
So, I always love it when Dale North writes posts on Destructoid, because 99% of the time there's a cute picture of a corgi as the header image.
Tim Man loves the dogs.
I know, check it out. The point of the story is to alert you PAX goers that Square-Enix is going to be hosting a panel on August 27th at 7 p.m. in which they're said to reveal a brand new top secret game, and it's going to be playable. They've been working on the title with Airtight Games. Oh, there's the corgi, look how cute. Airtight Games is a development studio based out of Redmond, Washington, who developed the 2010 Capcom title Dark Void, which did not exactly get the best of ratings. Jim Sterling gave it a 3.5 out of 10. Still, we don't know much about their game yet, beyond the fact that Kim Swift is the creative director. You might know her as the co-creator of Portal. She also worked on both Left 4 Dead games before leaving Valve in 2009 to become a project lead over at Airtight. So if you take a gander at their website, it lists this unnamed upcoming project with a description: "We are currently working on another ambitious AAA title in a genre that is both unique and refreshingly unexplored." This reminds me, we've got a pretty good thread going on over at facebook.com/dtoidshow, where we asked what you guys want us to cover at PAX. So if you really want to see info on a particular game, comment on that status and let us know, because, we're going to be covering the game that Airtight's doing, obviously. And, I read your Facebook comments at night. And
yeah, I know. I'm
chuckle
going to be checking
deliriously
out,
to myself.
I'm going to be checking out Skyrim and Arkham City and Mass Effect 3 and Old Republic and lots of things. There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about and stuff, but right now, bitches leave. We have RoboCop news, sort of. It's not exactly news. The Xbox Live avatars can now dress up like RoboCop.
Wow.
Yeah.
You felt this was worth covering?
Shut up, Tara. As opposed as I am to paying real money for imaginary clothes, this is actually pretty sweet. I might even go so far as to say, I'd buy that for $1 or 80 Microsoft points. Anyway, the Xbox Live RoboCop Avatar Collection will be available in a few days, and the only stuff worth buying is the RoboCop armor or the little tiny baby pet Ed 209. I think it's cute. If you spend money on a virtual OCP t-shirt, I hate you. This is barely news. I just wanted an excuse to quote Clarence Boddicker, on the show. Can you fly, Bobby? Tara, have you seen RoboCop?
No.
Okay, all right, fine. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsor, and then we're going to Skype in Mr. Jim Sterling to talk about a different cyborg from Detroit, the guy with the beard from Deus Ex. Stay tuned for the full review. Squarespace is the fastest and easiest way to create a high-quality blog, portfolio, or any kind of website. If you have questions or need help, Squarespace provides every member with amazing support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Start your website or blog by choosing from over 60 professionally designed templates and then add content for your computer, iPhone, or iPad. Squarespace's mobile apps allow you to easily add entries and manage your comments from anywhere. Many of the internet's highest traffic web pages are powered by Squarespace, not to mention many of the personal pages of Revision 3 hosts and personality. Check out www.squarespace.com to get a 2-week free trial and 10% off when you sign up in August. Just enter the coupon code Destructoid8.
Welcome back. So, if you noticed that I was unusually absent from Twitter this weekend, it's because of a little game called Deus Ex Human Revolution, which Max and I actually got a chance to play this weekend. But Jim Sterling actually reviewed the game for Destructoid, so we figured, you know, why not bring him in for a little Skype and he can tell us about the game. Jim Sterling?
Up here!
Hello!
Ah, hello!
I played it twice, so I'm winning that.
Wow, you think you're better than us?
I'm winning that on 360 and PC.
Oh,
so
boy.
go Master Race.
Wonderful. So now your review went up this morning. You gave it a 9.5 out of 10, which you probably give that to like every game you review, right?
Oh, I'm famous for rating games far too high.
So
They call me Mr. Nice.
So you played it twice, you gave it a 9.5, obviously you liked it. Can you tell us a little bit about it so far? Like, we know it's supposed to be like miles ahead of the previous game, which was already, you know, fantastic by people who played it, but give us some overall impressions. What you got?
Sure. I don't have 24 hours because that's how long it would take to talk about it. And the game itself takes significantly longer to beat. The last Deus Ex game actually wasn't received quite so well by fans because they said, oh, it made it too much like a shooter. The first one back in 2000 was beloved and considered to have such a legacy that any game, like any developer trying to match it, would have an impossible task ahead of them. And Eidos Montreal, of all studios, are now the masters of the impossible because Deus Ex Human Revolution is a more than worthy successor. It is a game that stands next to Deus Ex, respects what the legacy and what that name means, and says, I am one of you, and you will like me.
So essentially it's the opposite of Duke Nukem Forever.
Yes, it is the direct opposite of Duke Nukem Forever, with cooler shades as well. Because they flip out the side of Jensen's face. Duke can't do that.
And he's got a little beard. I love the beard.
I love his little beard.
One thing I noticed that is I guess kind of commonly thought to be is that it's a very difficult game. And not necessarily difficult, but complex.
It is.
There's a lot to it. There's kind of a learning curve, I noticed. You know, it takes you like maybe 2 or 3 hours just to kind of get into the gameplay and actually familiarize yourself.
It's not an easy game. It's old school learning curve. Like
it is.
It's not so much that the game is difficult in as much as it's difficult to wrap your head around it.
Right.
Unless you've recently played Deus Ex, which I went back and played the original Deus Ex shortly before I played Human Revolution. And if you are into survival-based shooters like Deus Ex or Stalker, and I recently played I as well on Steam, so I was very much in the right mindset because this is a game in which you can't just run and gun, and even though Adam Jensen is a transhuman, he is still a human, and they remind you of that constantly. You can upgrade you can get like epidural armor plating to absorb more damage, but it's only incremental. He will still go down after a realistic amount of gunfire, and even the healing is no good if you don't know what you're doing. If you're gonna go in there in a combat situation, you have to plan ahead, like know where the exits are, secure an air vent to hide in if it goes wrong, and choose the best position to fight. Because those guys, the enemies, are surprisingly clever. They're some of the most smart enemies I've seen in a game, and they will try and outflank you. They will retreat to cover if they need to. I've even been in situations where they feinted me, where he's gone around one corner, I've tried to go around the other, and he's turned round and gone back after me.
Yeah, that is one thing I noticed while playing. Like, even if you're shooting from an area that's above, like in a lot of games, they just kind of stay down there and shoot back at you. But no, like in Deus Ex, these guys freaking like run up the stairs and will like shank you from behind.
No, I think it's important to note that this is not a straightforward shooter. I was looking at the back of the box, and they were like, "There's different ways to play. You can do stealth. You can." It didn't actually say you can do stealth. It's very. It's almost presenting it as like an action-y thing, but I think this is very, very comparable to Metal Gear Solid in terms of gameplay.
Well, in the first like hour or so of the game, they ask you, you know, in dialogue, do you want to be more aggressive with your tactics, or do you want to mostly stealth? And I chose like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go in there guns blazing.
Right.
Like,
that
why
didn't
not?
work,
I'm not good at stealthing.
Right. No, the way I played was mostly trying to. I killed everybody in the police station, and there were corpses everywhere, and I was just pulling them into the vent shafts to hide them, but it didn't matter because everyone was dead, and it just like. I wasn't so much that I was like a stealthy secret agent as more some kind of monster that lives in the vents killing people.
I think
the vent monster.
The thing that really impressed me was how you don't have to tie yourself to one style of play, and it's been designed very well to let the playstyles bleed into each other. Like, you can use stealth to get to a better position and then go in all guns blazing, like coming in from behind or flanking, or choosing a position in an air vent and you can snipe them from there and run from vent to vent, just popping them and they don't know what's going on. And you don't have to play it that way, or you can play all stealth, or you can choose to kill nobody, which was a big point in the original Deus Ex, to do pacifist runs where you don't kill everyone on sight, and you can go through the game theoretically with only killing a few characters that have to die.
Does that actually affect the outcome of the game if you choose to just go in there and kill everybody?
Not so much. The actual general gameplay doesn't really influence the story, but there are, of course, different types of branching paths, multiple ways to approach objectives, and things you won't necessarily see if you don't do a certain thing, or you will see if you go a different route. One thing that a lot of reviewers were talking about, I know Ben Kuchera on Ars Technica especially was talking about how his experience with the game and the things he saw were vastly different from something another reviewer saw. That depending on which way you do it, like you can, as Max said, go into that police station and just shoot everything and become the creeping vent monster. Or you can, if you've done the right preparation beforehand, walk up to the front desk and smooth talk your way in.
So let's talk about the augmentations for a second, because I read your review this morning. You said that there are certain ones that people will probably, well, that people should be choosing over others. Like things like hacking skills you mentioned were pretty important.
Yeah.
I do not understand the hacking in this game. Can I just say that? I've like defeated every single computer I've hacked, but I have no idea what I'm actually doing.
It's very overwhelming, the hacking system, and you can be tricked into thinking you don't understand it when you probably do.
Yeah.
It's like a little mini strategy game in which you capture these nodes on a grid, and you've got to do it before the network cottons onto you and tries to trace you and lock you out. So long as you're capturing those nodes and heading towards the green sphere to unlock stuff, you're doing it right. And you've got to make sure you get the little cube ones, because they've got like money and XP in there. And it's quite simple once you get down to it. But yeah, like you said, there are certain augmentations that you really need, and hacking is one of them, because hacking is used for everything.
Yeah. It's a bit daunting at first, but...
I think that the game itself is actually quite daunting when you start it up, because it isn't so straightforward and objective-based. It doesn't just plop you down and say, go here, go do this. I mean, there are waypoints and everything, but because it's such an open-ended style of game, it's a little bit daunting when you jump into it. You're just not really sure where to go.
You know what, though? I thought I had a pretty good tutorial system.
Yeah,
which is somebody, you know, we had like Twitter questions, people, you know, asking us what we should talk about today, and somebody asked, is it easy like to jump in if you haven't played the first game, which I hadn't played the first game either, and like there is, like I said, a learning curve, but it goes pretty quickly. You're pretty amazed at how well you pick it up, actually.
One thing I mentioned, it's like Metal Gear Solid, and I think it's interesting because the stealth stuff you do, it's in first person, but then when you actually get down under cover and you're shooting people, it's in third, which is kind of an awkward thing to get used to, because in Metal Gear, you're third person, you can see where people are, where they're looking, where they're behind corners, but when you're in first person, there can be someone behind you, or, you know...
The movement can be a little bit tricky, I think.
Yeah, it was fun, though.
It's very different. It takes getting used to, but once you do, like, I couldn't imagine the game played any other way.
What did you think, Jim, of the African-American lady going through the garbage?
Yes, that was fun. I'm
That
actually
was-
going to capture that on video tonight and post that on Destructoid, because when you see an African-American lady rooting through the trash, and bear in mind there are other characters that root through trash because there's a whole storyline about class divide in the game, which is fair enough. Poor people exist, and some of them have to root through trash.
Right,
But
they don't have
when
to
you
sound like Jar Jar Binks, though.
Yeah, when you talk to one of them, they shouldn't look up to you and go, "What can I do for you, Captain?" Oh, lordy, lordy. Like, you can't do that in a game and not get pulled up.
She even smokes crack. Like, that was one of the things. I was baffled by that. That was just.
She's not the only one. I mean, when you go to China, I'm not going to do the voice, but there's some question, and actually the first Deus Ex had that problem as well. Just in the French and the Hong Kong levels, there is some questionable content. I'm not going to go out and accuse anybody of anything. I just think they perhaps didn't quite think about what the potential consequences could be with some of those characters.
Right.
I have to say I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the voice acting in it. Some of it I thought was actually really good, but I couldn't really get into Jensen's voice.
There were some laughable
It was
points.
a little too reminiscent of Christian Bale in
I
The
got
Dark
that too,
Knight.
you know?
Yeah.
Or
Can we,
Yeah.
can we talk about the Hugh Darrow
Yes.
character and the fact that he's basically Jafar? Jafar is in this game. He'll be saying, Adam Jensen, how pleased I am to have you here, Prince Abubu.
There are some entertaining moments in this game.
So we got a couple viewer questions for you, Jim. Jorshes on Twitter says, how high is the replay value in Deus Ex?
I'm replaying it right now.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
very.
And Joshy910, he said, in the Human Revolution review, not much was said about weapon upgrades. Is that because these are less prominent than other game elements?
They work very much exactly the same way as they do in Deus Ex. It was probably a bit of an oversight on my part, but the review was already running at like 20 paragraphs, and it was getting difficult to fit everything in. I think that's mostly it. It was one of the least important parts, so I didn't really cram it in there. But if you've played the original Deus Ex, it's exactly the same. Like, you pick up laser sights and whack them on, and ammo upgrades and extra damage. They're just nice little additions. But once you pick a gun and you really like it, you'll tend to stick with just one or two guns.
Yeah, I think adding a lot of customization in that area would just add like needless complication to the game.
There's enough customization.
Yeah.
The augmentation's much more interesting. You can get X-ray vision or punch through walls. Kyle994 asks, Deus Ex question for Jim. With the augmentations, is there a visual representation on the character when you get new augs?
Not that you can see. A lot of them are actually under his skin, and it'll show you the physical effect of them on a picture of Jensen on the augmentation screen. Like, it will show you an X-ray of his spine and things going through it. Jensen himself doesn't really change. He changes. I think his little beard gets bigger as the game goes on, but I could have just imagined that. But no, you don't really customize him physically at all.
So here's a big question. How does the PC version stack up to the Xbox version? Because we both played the Xbox one, and what'd you think?
Yeah. The PC version is great. Obviously, if you've got a PC that can run it, that should be your de facto choice, because it looks better, and the controls are surprisingly really nice. I've never really liked the idea of playing a stealth game on a PC, because the way I use mouse and keyboard just doesn't quite work with that. But on the PC version, just right-click and he'll go up against the wall and you go into the third person, and it feels very intuitive, and a little bit more so than on the 360. The only problem really with the PC version is the cutscenes are dreadful. They're very poorly compressed, and I don't know why, especially when it's supposed to look a lot better than the 360 version. And it does in the in-game engine stuff, but the pre-rendered cutscenes are just horribly squashed. And that's really the only downside.
All right.
We've got two more questions. Harley Cosmo said, is there any way for me to build up my skills so that I can go in Serious Sam style, or do I have to stick to skulking around and getting a shot in when I can?
Yeah, don't play it like Serious Sam. That's Suez. In fact, don't get any augmentations that make you think you can do it either. Things like the Typhoon upgrade, where you can smash the ground and 360-degree explosion happens around you. it's worthless, because to get yourself surrounded by enemies to the point where you can do that is a suicide tactic anyway. You can get a bit more combat heavy, but as I said, Jensen's a transhuman, not a superhuman, and the human element is important to remember. So it's not so much skulking around if you don't want to do it, but you've got to observe the battlefield, pre-plan, know where your escape routes are, find good cover, find good backup cover, and then do what you're gonna do.
So you have to think about things. You can't quite do Serious Sam here.
Yeah.
Finally, ONR22 asked on Twitter, is Deus Ex Human Revolution worth getting if I haven't played the previous Deus Ex games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Even
is.
I can answer that one.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, it's a prequel, and even though you'll miss some nice little touches and some nice references, the story is very self-contained. Again, it's like Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, which I have been comparing it to a lot, because I do think this is the Snake Eater of this generation.
Yeah, I've been saying it's kind of like if RoboCop and Metal Gear Solid had a baby, so that's really good. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that everyone here thoroughly enjoyed it, and our producer's really mad that I didn't bring my copy of it for him today. He yelled at me this morning.
Anyway, yeah, Jim, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
And,
you guys can read Jim's review of Deus Ex on Destructoid.com. It went up this morning. You can also catch his video series, The Jimquisition, over on The Escapist. Is that a weekly thing?
Yes, it is. Every Monday. It will literally augment your Monday mornings.
All right, wonderful. You're also going to be hosting our PAX panel with Max here and a few others. That's going to be on Sunday, August 28th at noon in the Unicorn Room. And I will be there in the audience wearing a French-maid costume and passing out lotion and tissues, because they still don't let women host PAX panels. What?
Lots of lotion.
Oh, wonderful.
Thanks for joining us, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And before we go, we've got our Plants and Zombies prizes, these little action figures and hats. And all you have to do to win one of these is send us a drawing of us as plants or zombies to show@destructoid.com. And we will go over the winners on Wednesday's show. You've got until Tuesday at midnight night. And we'll talk about that, and we'll see you guys next time.
Excited to see what you guys get.
Yeah.
See you Wednesday.